Nimona was released in 2023 and was directed by Troy Quane and Nick Bruno. It tells the story of Ballister Boldheart, who gets framed for a crime that he isn't responsible for, and he ends up meeting a girl who is able to change her form into multiple different animals, named Nimona, who can help Ballister redeem himself. I had been wanting to talk about Nimona for quite a while. I actually did watch the film a couple of weeks ago, and I did like it, but I wanted to rewatch it to refresh my thoughts. I feel like I really did need a rewatch before I did a review. And I know a few people have been wanting me to review the film. It's just when it came out, obviously I was getting busy, getting ready for Turkey, and I was going to see Ruby Gilman. So now that I have more time, now that I have more time, I've finally seen the film twice on Netflix. So, what do I think of Nimona? I quite like it. Now, I don't quite think it's a masterpiece, nor would I call it an amazing film. Not to say I think it's overrated. I can definitely see why people adore this movie and why people call it a masterpiece. I can understand the praise and I respect it. But for me personally, I do like the film. Don't get me wrong. I actually think I think it's a great film. I think it's very enjoyable. The storyline is very well written, but I have a few flaws that I'd like to get into in a moment, and I will talk spoilers when I'm talking about the third act, so just be warned about that. I will say a warning beforehand. But as for the Nimona, I like the film, and I think it's very good. I actually think I do like it more now after a second viewing, which I just finished it a couple of minutes ago, and I'm glad I gave it a rewatch because my opinion on certain things, especially some the very end, has changed a bit. So the storyline. I quite like the story of Nimona. I think the storyline it's very engaging, very funny, and very charming. Now I was kind of going to myself, this is very cliche. This is very generic. So, okay, first Nimona and Ballister, they're not quite, they're like, Ballister kind of is a bit unsure that he thinks she's a monster and all. And I'm going, yeah, that's cliche. I've seen that kind of story billions of times before. Or how Nimona towards the end is basically being stereotyped as a monster because she's a shapeshifter, but really she's good. I've seen that kind of story before. But what was the execution like? I think the execution is very good. I think the execution is very well written, and it is very unique the way it is written. I just was kind of sentimental. I just think it's noticeably cliche. I'm not saying it's a bad thing that it's cliche. I'm just saying I just felt it was noticeable, but not bad. Like it was still, like I said, it was well written. I think the storyline does go in a very interesting direction, especially in the first two acts. And I think the humor is great. The humor is hilarious. I think Nimona has a great personality in the film. She brings so much charm, so much life, and the humor, every joke laughs. It's fantastic. It's like Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves earlier this year. Every joke landed. It's such a funny film. It's hilarious to watch. The humor is great. When Nimona shapeshifts into a shark, that scene has to be the most funniest in the film to me. I think that scene is hilarious. I think it's genius the way it's written. So I think the storyline it is very good. However, where was my problem? It was the third act. Now, I'm about to talk spoilers, so if you've not seen the film, you might want to click out or put the video on mute. But anyway, the third act. I thought the third act was a little didn't feel right. It didn't quite match with the rest of the film for me. I think personally, instead of having Nimona turn into a giant monster, I think they should have had after Ballister after Nimona feels threatened by Ballister in the third act. I think what they should have had, Ballister should have talked her out how she isn't a true monster, how she's a great person, that she actually does have feelings, that she's not just this evil monster. I think then have them team up then trying to stop the villain. I think that just would have worked better with me personally. I just thought that like Nimona turning into a big monster that nearly destroyed the city. I was just going to myself, I'm not. This isn't clicking with me. This doesn't this doesn't gel with me right. This doesn't feel right to me. It just feels wrong. And I also think another thing in the third act, while it definitely does get better, I definitely do like when Ballister does save Nimona, and I do think that's great. However, spoiler alert, I don't like at first I didn't like how Nimona was killed off. I was just saying, on first viewing, I was like, Why would you do that? You've got a really good dynamic. Why kill her off? It doesn't feel right. However, on second viewing, my opinion has changed. I actually think the death of Nimona is actually really well written. I do actually think it works for the story now. I understood it better this time. However, one thing I don't like. Now, the very end is beautiful when Ballister's walking in the house, he's looking at old pictures and stuff. I love that, and the animation of that scene's beautiful. The very, very end, absolutely hilarious, yes. I don't like how it just cuts off. I'm sorry, I don't like that. You think something's about to happen, it just cuts off. I'm like, I don't like it when films did that. Call of the Wild did that. Even Soul did that. I don't like when movies think you think something's about to happen, then just cuts to the credits. I'm sorry, that doesn't work with me. That just doesn't do it for me personally. So despite those little issues, I do think the third act is decent enough. I have issues with it. Now granted, I think it will probably grow on me if I do end up rewatching the film again, because I was surprised that I actually like the death better more now. I just think, I don't know. I think the third act could have been a little better. It didn't feel right with me personally. But other than that, I do think the story is good. I also think the movie could have been cut down a little bit. There were scenes that I kind of felt were just a little too slow and kind of needed to pick up the pace just a little bit. But they weren't too slow. But like, I just think the pacing could have been a little quicker for me personally. The animation is absolutely beautiful. Spider-Verse really has made such a big impact on the animation medium, and I think the comic book style is great. I think the animation of this film, it's so alive, it's so expressive, so colorful, very cartoony, but it works. It's perfect. The animation is absolutely gorgeous. The detail, the character designs, the expressions, it's so alive, this film, and the mix of 2D and 3D, it brings the world to life, and it really does. Like the animation, like I said, it's so alive, it's so expressive. It's great. The animation's amazing. I actually do think the film should have been released in cinemas because, my God, the animation is gorgeous. It's absolutely fantastic, and the characters, they're great. They actually are really likable. I think Nimona is a great protagonist who brings in a lot of the great humour in the film, and I really like how she's written, especially her very likeable personality. And Bellister is a very good character as well, and I really like his journey too, and the bond they have together really is so nice to watch and definitely brings in a lot of the film's heart. Ambrosis is very good too, and I like how his dynamic with Ballister is taken. It does go in a very interesting direction, and I like how he gets a good bit of character development because I feel like, as he's not the main character, I think he could have been underdeveloped. But no, he's excellent in this film. The villain of the film, the director, damn, she's a bitch. I didn't really find her intimidating per se, but my Jesus, she is cruel and very well written, especially in the film's third act. The music is also very catchy. Some of the songs are genuinely really well written. They're so catchy and really do suit not just the scenes, but the tone of the film and the overall message. I thought the music was great. Even the end credits song, I was like, wow, the music of the film is great. So while I do think the third act is a little off-putting, I do think Nimona, I'm very happy to say, I do think it is a great movie. I don't quite like it as much as everyone else, but I can still understand the love for the film. I can still understand why people think it's a masterpiece. But even then, even if I don't like it as much as everyone else did, I still really like the film, and I'm actually glad I watched it again because I actually appreciate it more now than I did on first viewing. Overall, Nimona is a very good film with an interesting story, beautiful animation, great characters, and very catchy music. I do feel the third act could have been tweaked a little bit, but I still think it's a great movie. I'm going to give Nimona an 8 out of 10. So that's it for my review of Nimona. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Stay tuned for my next review. Until then, guys, take care, everyone. Thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned for the next video, and skidoosh.